Okay. All right, so hopefully everyone is here for funding your nonprofit. And my name is Mel Lambert. I am the Adult Services Manager here at Kirkwood Public Library, and that basically just means that I manage anything that has to do with adults, not youth. So all of our resources that I'm going to talk about today, I'm in charge of those. Programming for adults, I manage our reference department. So if you have any questions about adult-based things, I'm your gal. If you have youth questions, I will send you to someone else because I don't know. So today we're going to talk about using a few really great resources that we have here at Kirkwood Public Library to find funding for your nonprofits, but also just some freely available resources that are out there in the world that can be really, really helpful. And then for those of you who are on Zoom, please feel free to unmute yourselves, ask a question, interrupt me. Same for the people in the room. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you have a question, please feel free to ask it. Just go ahead and interrupt me. And we'll go from there. Okay, so some of the biggest questions people have when they're talking about funding their nonprofit are, how do I find potential partners? People, businesses, organizations who may want to work with me. Maybe it's not all about funding, maybe it's about growing or offering a service that you don't already provide. How can I find the money, potential donors, and how can I find grants? So one of a really great resource that's available to you here in St. Louis is called Reference Solutions. And it is really great for finding other businesses, sometimes organizations as well, that might be in a space or be of a size that would be able to either donate money or donate resources. Here in St. Louis, Reference Solutions is available at St. Louis County Library, St. Louis Public Library, and the St. Charles Library. We don't have it here at Kirkwood. It is very expensive, but I'm going to let you in on a little trick here in the St. Louis area. I have 4 library cards. So if you live in the Kirkwood area, if you live in St. Louis County, if you live in St. Louis City, you can get a library card at all of those different places. And all of them have different resources and access to different tools that can be really, really helpful. So I always like to point out resources that maybe we don't have here at Kirkwood, but that you do have access to just by getting a library card at one of these other bigger library systems. So I am going to show you how to use Reference Solutions. So I'm going to pull it up on County. And one of the great things about this resource in particular is that you can access it from anywhere. So you can use it from home. As long as you have your library card and you can log in. Okay, that was my library card number. So the one that I'm going to focus on today is US businesses. And this is where maybe you met somebody at a networking event and you're like, oh man, they said they work for such and such company. I want to get a little information about that particular company. That's where quick search is going to come in handy, because you can type in the company name and pull up information specifically on that company. However, in advanced search, you're going to be able to pull up a list of companies or organizations. So you can search by metro area. And you can search by a keyword. Or if we were looking for large companies that we wanted to reach out to about being a potential sponsor or donor, that kind of thing, you can actually do it by size of company. And one of the things you can actually search by is Fortune 1000 companies. So if we were curious about Fortune 1000 companies in the St. Louis area, we can see that there's 16. And then it's automatically going to pull this list of those companies. And so if you were looking for a large donor or a large sponsor, and you knew that some of these larger companies do that, you can then go through here and see what they are and get a list of names. You can click on a company and it's going to give you information about them, including their sales volume. When this database was last up, when this particular entry was last updated, so it was last year, that's a little older than I usually see in here. And then a list of names. So this can be helpful because you can compare it to people you may know that might work there, especially if you're in that same area, or take it to your board, your nonprofit board, and say, hey, do we know anyone on this? Who knows somebody who may know somebody on this list of names? And how do we get in front of them and how do we talk to them about, what we're doing here? And then you can just kind of get a little bit of information about if there's been any executive changes, any location changes, that kind of thing. So that's reference solutions. You can also take that list with you. You can download it into an Excel spreadsheet and take it with you if you want. But this is a really good tool for kind of looking at maybe some of those larger companies that might be a good potential partner or sponsor. And then another good place to look is here in Missouri, we have something called Missouri SourceLink. And this is a really amazing resource for anyone in Missouri. SourceLink is a national organization, but our Missouri section is super active. And they put together something called a resource navigator, which can point you to a lot of different resource organizations across Missouri that can help your nonprofit. So the resource navigator looks like this. You can search by location. So you can say, I'm only interested in St. Louis. You can select a distance. And then you can say area of assistance. You can say financial resources, but there's all these other resources that your nonprofit may need access to, where you can also pull up what organizations and places are doing this to help small businesses and nonprofits in Missouri. So let's say you were interested in legal services. You can also say specific needs. So if you were looking for contract review or something like that, you can see who's doing that. And then you can filter the resources and it'll show you who is doing that in the area. And there's none. So let's open this up. Not so narrow. And now, okay, so you can see who is kind of offering some sort of legal help in the area. This is particularly a really great resource when you are looking at funding. Because there may be organizations that you don't really know exist that are going to be listed here. So yeah, so 241 Small Business Network by Beyond Housing, they do funding. Some of the capital partners probably aren't going to be interested in nonprofits, but you can kind of go through this list and filter out who would be a good match for your organization. So this is updated on a pretty regular basis. you can always reach out to Missouri SourceLink. They have a phone number there, and they're incredibly helpful. And this is just such a great resource for the people in the state of Missouri that a lot of people don't know even exists.
That requires no access to it, right? It's an open.
It is, oh yeah, that is open and available to any, you can just go to that website, and I have slides here that I'll send out after if you signed up or if you put your email on the back. And they're all clickable, so you can click on those resources and have those links. Another way that organizations can find money is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is basically when you put together some kind of campaign. So sometimes Kickstarter is a good example of that, where you might say, hey, we're trying to raise money for this program that we want to do, or we're trying to raise money to build a shed to house all of our gardening equipment, or whatever it is that you're trying to raise money for. It's usually a fixed item thing. It's not like a capital campaign or something huge like that. But crowdfunding is a way to find kind of potential donors where you might get 100 people who all donate $10. And so it is a unique resource. And if you don't know how to crowdfund and you don't know how to get started with that, St. Louis County Library, St. Louis Public Library, and St. Charles all have access to this tool called LinkedIn Learning, and you have access to this with your library card. So LinkedIn Learning has a lot of different videos and ways that you can look at to learn more about how to put together a crowdfunding campaign, how to raise money, what you need to do to make it successful. Because those are often the questions, right? Like, okay, I could set up this Kickstarter campaign, but I don't know what I'm doing. How do I make it successful? How do I get people to come to my page? So these are really great ideas for having access to. You do, if you're paying for like LinkedIn Premium, to have access to LinkedIn Learning, I always tell people to stop because you have access for free with your library card. And so, use all of the resources that you have access to. Don't quit paying for stuff that you don't need to pay for. And then there's another resource at St. Louis County Library called Merchant Intellect. It is very similar to Reference Solutions, where you can pull a list of companies and other organizations. I'm not going to demo it because it is very similar, but I am also of the mind that like I pull a list in at least 2 places, and yeah, there's going to be crossover with, they're going to pull very similar lists, but each one is going to have different businesses that weren't on the other one because they are not all encompassing. And so to have the best, coolest super list of potential donors and sponsors, I always pull a list from more than one place. All right, so here's the meat and potatoes of this presentation. Is going to be looking at our grant researching tools. So we have something, there's a business called Candid. They put together a tool called Foundation Directory and grants for individuals, which the Foundation Directory is the one that nonprofits can use to really pull great lists of grants that are available and out there for you to access. Grants for individuals is going to be more fellowships, scholarships. So also really great, just maybe not for your nonprofit, but if you have a kid who's going to college, if you yourself are going back to college, it's a wonderful place to look for scholarships. Grants for individuals also can be good if you are looking for professional development and you want to get a small grant for some type of training or learning that's maybe a little more expensive than you would want to pay for individually. And maybe your organization can't pay for it, but you could get funding from there as well. Then there is Grant Select, which is available at St. Louis County Library and grants.gov. So don't sleep on the government. They do also have grants available. And we'll kind of go over their website is a little clunkier. It's not as fun as the Candid stuff, but it is still a really good place to look for grants. The downside to Candid's, both of their grant searching tools, is that it is only available in library. So you do have to come into the library. It is not one of those that you can access outside with your library card. However, that is why I always like to point out who has it. So KPL here at Kirkwood Public Library, we have it, and you can come in and you can use it, even if you're just on our Wi-Fi. So if you bring your own laptop, you can access it, or you can use our public computers as well. St. Louis County Library, it is available, I think at 4 or 5 of their regional branches. And then St. Louis Public, it is only available at their downtown location.
Does it need a library card?
No, so that's the other thing, is that when you come in to the library to access it, it's just available at our computers. So you don't have to log in with a library card or anything like that. It just pops up when you access it.
So if we get our own laptop, then accessing the Wi-Fi would allow.
Yeah, here. I don't think you can do that at St. Louis Public Library, but you can do that here. And I think at county as well. If you were at a county location, you can access it through their Wi-Fi. But yeah, but once you leave the building, you can't access it anymore. So downside to Candid is you do have to be physically on location to use it. Grant Select, which is through St. Louis County Library, you can access it with your library card at home. So a lot of times what I tell people to do is, hey, Grant Select, see what they have in there. And then when you want to do a deeper dive, bring that list and come into the library when you have a chance and look that way. And I'll show you kind of what I mean when I demo it, because you'll see how much information is available in Foundation Directory and compared to some of these other resources. All right, so we're going to dive in. So this is our website, and I always kind of like to demo for people how to navigate a library website, because we are notoriously terrible at making our resources easy to find. So we actually just changed our website recently, and you can see that we have a section for online resources. At county, I think they call it research. So when you're on their website, you would look at research, and at St. Louis Public, they call it digital resources. So everyone calls it something different. Great. That makes it even more hard when you're kind of looking at a few different libraries. So we're going to go to our research resources. I already have that page up. And then here, you can see we have A to Z or by category. I like to go by category because I know I'm looking for grants. And you can see, it even tells you that this is in library use only. And this one is also in library use only, so we probably need to update that.
And again, how do you get to this? You go to online resources.
Yes, online resources and then research resources.
When we come by and have a question, is anybody around?
Yes, so any of our reference librarians, so when you walk into the Kirkwood Public Library, there's a desk off to the right. And that's our reference desk, and any of those librarians can help you navigate it. Everyone, when they start here, gets trained on this specifically. And so yeah, not everyone is gonna know all the ins and outs like I do, because I work with it every day. But they're gonna know how to get there, how to access it, kind of some main tips on how to use it. So this is what it looks like. See, it's very sleek. And they always say to kind of start with a sentence for what you're looking for. So I am going to. So talk to you about,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna say, I'm looking for senior resources in St. Louis. And you will see that it's going to auto-populate for me, and it's gonna say, are you looking for a grant maker? No, I'm not. But if you were, you could also start typing the name of someone that you know gives grants into here and then select them from the list. So then I'm just gonna hit enter, and it's gonna do a search for me. And it's gonna automatically pop up and show me that there are 129 grant makers giving 389 different grants to 47 different recipients in the St. Louis area. And this is where I usually want to make sure that it's searching for what I want to search for. So I usually open up the advanced search filters, and there you go. It is exactly searching. Every once in a while, even though I put in St. Louis, it leaves that geographic focus blank. And I usually know that that's happened because it'll come back with like 2,000 grants, and that's too many for me to filter through. So kind of pay attention to that. The other thing I always really like to add in is under additional filters. And if I am looking for money now in the year 2023, I like to make the years that I'm searching for sometime in the last 5 years, because if you haven't given money to anyone in the last 5 years, I probably don't need you in my list if I'm really trying to like narrow down who I want to target. So then I can do that and hit search again, and it cut my grants in half, looking at just who's given in the last 4 or 5 years.
Hey, Mel,
Yeah.
it's Deb. Could you drill into the recipients tab so we can see what that means?
Yep. Yeah, I will get there, totally.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, we're gonna go through all of this. I'm gonna start with the grant makers so you can kind of see how that works. So these are the people who are giving the grants. It sorts them by grant count automatically, but if you wanted to see who had given the highest amount, you could sort by that too. They do it by grant count because if they're giving more grants, there's probably a better chance that you would get one.
So sorry. So does grant count mean that that's how many grants they've given, like in total for the however many years it's selected, or is that like every year they give like 9 grants or whatever it is?
Yeah, so the cool thing about this database is that it is based on your search criteria. So it is telling me that they gave 9 grants to senior services in St. Louis, Missouri since 2018.
Gotcha.
And you can kind of hover over it and learn a little more. So you can see that they are in fact giving the most money to human services and health. And then we can actually go to view all for this section, and we can see the whole list. You can click on a particular grant giver, and this is where you're going to learn a lot more about them. So not only are we going to learn what is being funded, we're going to see where the money is going. Missouri is dark green. That's great. You know, because that means that they're giving the most money in Missouri. Yay! How big are the grants? This is important because if you are looking to get large amounts of funding, like 100K to 500K, and this particular grantor is only giving less than $5,000 grants, you don't want to write to them and ask them for $100,000 because you're never going to get it. So it's strategic, right? You're figuring out who is giving money in the area that you the range that you're looking for. You can also filter by that. On that first page, you can filter the amount of money. So if you are looking for a minimum amount of money, you can actually put that in and it'll only pull back people who are giving that amount of money. And then on this page, you can see who they gave money to. So you can see who, and this is again, based on your criteria. So it's only going to show you people who got money for the thing that you are looking to fund as well. Why is this important? Well, because you can actually click on their name and see what they got funded for this time. But you can actually look at them and see what type of organizations are giving money to them, where the majority of their funders are located, and the size of the grants that they're getting. And then who all is funding them. Now this one, not super helpful because it was the only one that's listed is the company that we already, or the grantor that we already looked at. However, if it's someone else, there might be 6 or 7 different grant makers listed there. And then you can say, well, I want money from those people too. And maybe they can give me money as well. And you can kind of go back and look at those other organizations that have given them money. On this page, you can also learn a little more about what they're interested in giving grants to. So they're interested in program support. So if you were building different educational programs for your nonprofit or something like that, they're really interested in giving money to that. Over here, you can kind of learn a little more about what types of grants they give. So this is not specific to your search. This is just going to be the same and on any page that you search, but you can see what other things that they are giving to in case it comes up for something else. It's going to give you on some of them other funders to consider. So if you are looking for money on this topic, it's like the Amazon of funding. You may also like the Hall Family Foundation, Gateway Foundation, and you can then click on those from there. It also is going to give you how to apply. Application form required, go to their website, download, and then any deadlines. So you look at this and you go, man, I really wanted to apply, but it was March 18th and it's now March 30th. That's going to happen. However, what I do is I send little calendar reminders to myself. So I would say in January of next year, I'm setting that calendar reminder that United Way has a grant that I want to look at and kind of keep a list that way that helps you kind of keep track of which ones you really want to apply for, even if the date has already passed. You can look at their 990 forms. Some people find this interesting, which kind of gives you an idea of who they've given to in the past, that kind of thing. So you can download those. And then again, this is another section where you can go to your board or you can look at this list and say, okay, who do we know on this, on their board? Who do we know on their staff that we can reach out to? And talk to them about funding our organization as well. This specifically comes in handy. There's going to be some grants that you're going to come across that say in this little RFP how to apply section, it's going to have some weird phrasing like only gives to people on our selected list. And I'm going to get to that a little later in the presentation about how you can kind of get around that. But that's when also this who's who can be helpful because you can then get on their selected list of people that they're funding. Sometimes for the bigger grant makers, it's going to have communications, but I like this at the bottom because there is always contact information if you had questions and wanted to follow up. And a lot of times there's an email, and this is one of our only resources we have that actually gives an email. And as a person who is a bit introverted, I really love the ability to not have to call someone or, write a letter or whatever it is, but being able to send an email, especially if you have questions about how to apply or something like that, can be really helpful. All right. So, and I will just show you very quickly over here in the grant amount. You can use the little slider, but I find that to be really sticky. So you can actually click in here as well. And this is where you can say, well, I need a $50,000 minimum grant. And you can search from there. And so you can see that that brought our grant makers down to 17 when we want a big grant like that. This next section is the grants that are being given. So this is up here we have the grant makers, and then down here is basically these are the grants, individual grants that were given. So you had 17 grant makers and then 34 grants that they gave, and this is who they gave to, and this was the amount. So you can kind of see the subjects. This can be helpful as well to kind of go through and see what people have been giving to in the last 5 years in the area that you are looking to fund. Because that might lead you to kind of see what kind of trends are out there. Is there, are they giving a lot of money to a certain thing that is important to grant makers right now? And again, you can click on any of the recipients and see what the grant amount was for. Sometimes the descriptions are a little more helpful than just health or senior services. Sometimes it actually does have a pretty good description of like what they wrote that grant for. And that can be helpful too, if you are courting a certain funder and like, okay, they gave this person won a grant and this is what they wrote it for. And again, you can then click on the recipient and see who else is funding them. This one, no one else. And then we can also go into the recipient section. And again, you can see who got grants, how many grants they got, how much total money they've received. And this is all based on your search criteria. So if I change this to something else, it's going to give me a different dollar amount, a different number of grants, that kind of thing. Okay, any questions about this? Oh, actually, I do want to go back up here. Okay, so what is the difference between geographic focus and location? So everything on that top search is going to be what you are searching to fund. Everything on this second line is going to be information about the person who is funding that. So organization name, their location, where they're located. You'll see I left that blank because I don't care where someone is giving money from if they are giving to, say, where I am in St. Louis. Some people do. Some people only want local donors. And so you would then want to say St. Louis or Missouri or something like that. But if there is somebody in Arkansas or Illinois giving money to St. Louis, Missouri for senior services, great. I want to know about that grant. And then if you met someone at a networking event and you couldn't remember their organization's name, you could type their name into the who's who and find out which organization that they worked for if you forgot. Geographic focus as well. So you'll see I put St. Louis in there. I always start small and then start to open it up. So I started in St. Louis, but then I can go back and I can take this out and say, well, I want to see who's giving money in Missouri as well, as a whole, because I don't want to miss out on anyone who's giving money to Missouri, because St. Louis is in Missouri. What this will do is it will open up and it will show you who's giving money in Missouri. But it will also show you organizations that you probably can't apply for because they're only giving to other areas in Missouri. So for example, it's gonna pull back southeast Missouri, northwest and northeast Missouri area Agency on Aging. They're not giving money to St. Louis. So they're gonna end up on this list just because they're giving money in Missouri. But you're also gonna get things like the United States National Institutes of Health. Like, so it's gonna open it up to things that you may have missed because you had that St. Louis on there. But there are organizations that are giving to Missouri as well. So I always use that as my secondary search and start small. And you may search for something and it only pulls back 3 or 4 results or no results. And that's when I know, okay, I have to broaden this. I have to focus on health services versus senior services, or open it up somehow. And do some tweaking with what keywords I'm searching for. One of the other things you can look at in here as well is your support strategy. But again, anytime you add something in here, you're cutting down on the number of grants. So if you are looking specifically for something very specific, sure, go crazy, add all the little narrowing things that you want to do, but just know the more you narrow your search, the less grants that are going to come up. But you can say, you know, I am specifically looking for a building acquisition. Who's funding building acquisitions? And then you can go and look in there. Any questions on this? No? Okay. All right, so we also have grants to individuals and GuideStar, which is new this year. So GuideStar is interesting because it helps funders find information on nonprofits. So that's you. So you can actually claim your GuideStar profile and update it. And let's see if I have it in here. And so here we go. So you'll see Cardinal Ritter is a silver, Lincoln County Council on Aging is platinum. And that does that mean? Yep. So that means that they've gone into GuideStar and claimed their profile, and they've added information that makes it easier for funders who are searching for them to know that they have these different levels based on how much information you add. That basically you are legitimate and you are who you say you are, and you can prove that because you uploaded your information, like you said who your funders are. So how transparent are you as a nonprofit being? And funders also use this tool. So yes, you as nonprofits are using this tool to find funders, but funders use this tool to come in and look at nonprofits and go, okay, who else is funding them? What are they doing? What kind of money have they gotten from other places and what have they used it for? And so using GuideStar to claim your profile and update that information can be a good idea depending on how visible you want to be to funders. And so they can come in here and look at that and go, Okay, Cardinal Ritter. Silver, they've got a little more information in there. They're being pretty transparent. That kind of thing.
I had a quick question about this. So for non-for-profit, does it have to be established like a certain number of years before you can like make a profile or anything?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so. I think you can go in there and you can claim your profile, or you can, if you aren't in there, you can add your information. And then
Is this visible outside of the library?
no, this is also, yeah, so basically anything Candid does is only available in the library. And then this is grants to individuals. It's the one where you can find scholarships and grant money for individual training and professional development, things like that. Again, you're gonna type in, it works exactly the same way, and it looks exactly the same as the other one, except this one is just for individuals and not the nonprofit.
Like a high schooler can go in here.
Yep.
and have
It
high
is-
schoolers.
Yes, it is a great resource to find scholarship money for college. And then grant select. Grant select. Oh, they got rid of it. Okay, so see, this is why I should have checked. So that's another thing that happens with libraries, is that they are flexible with our resources. So maybe they decided it wasn't worth the money anymore. And they got rid of it. So I will take that off of my presentation for the future. But we can look at grants.gov really quick. Okay, and this is another thing that actually happened yesterday as well. When I was, oh, there it goes. So sometimes and grants.gov is accessible from anywhere. It is just government website. Everyone, I've noticed that lately it's been a little finicky when I've been demoing it. So sometimes it does that whole, this doesn't exist, even though I know it does. So you can come in here and you can search for, and you can, again, you're gonna put those limiters in, right? You're gonna say, I only want grants. You can come in here and say who is eligible. So you can come in and say nonprofits that do not, but except we want nonprofits that have 501c3 status, and then you can come down here and look at the different categories. So let's see it. You know, maybe we're looking at health. And then if you know a particular agency that you want to work with, you can do that, or you can then just kind of look through and see what is out there. A lot of the health ones are going to be clinical trials and things like that. So you may have to filter out some of the more medical health nonprofit grants. But you'll see that, you know, there's also suicide prevention grants, things like that. So anything, you know, don't sleep on the government grants, because especially like the NIH, the National Institute for Health, is giving a lot of grant money to nonprofits and organizations who are doing that important work in their communities.
So once you know who you can apply for, it also takes skill to write it up, right?
Yes. There is, what a great segue. Okay, so this is where I'm going to give you resources for grant writing, writing letters of introduction, getting started in nonprofits. Maybe you haven't started a nonprofit yet and you're here because you want to start one and you want to find out about funding. So, okay, this is where I talk about, what if they say they only fund people on their list? Do not panic. Candid in all of their trainings say that just because somebody says that they only fund people on their list doesn't mean you can't get on that list. And especially if you look at their information, you're like, they're the perfect match for me and they should be giving money to us. Candid then also has these great free learning tools that are available outside the library. So Candid Learning is available anywhere. And so basically they have this whole write-up about why you should look at these foundations anyway, and why you should reach out to them, and how you can reach out to them. So, when 6 tips for when funders aren't accepting applications. So, hey, they're not accepting applications, but you're perfect for them. Well, you can go to this website and you can get a lot of really good information. They also have information about letters of introduction. So that is usually the first step, is that you would then reach out to that organization with a letter of introduction and say, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we think you should have a conversation with us. And they also have resources for what should be included in a letter of introduction. So Candid has these really great resources that are going to help you walk through and really help you write the grants and kind of know what you need to include. Writing grants. So they also have this intro to writing a proposal. They also have live in-person sessions, self-paced learning videos, that kind of thing. They have a sample documents gallery of actual winning proposals that are recommended by grant makers. So this is really a really great place to find free information. They also have some that are paid. So you can get certified. There's one that's 4 weeks long and you can get certified, but it's also $400. So just kind of be careful when you're browsing around their website and trying to find some of the free stuff. Just know that they also have paid trainings that are way more in depth, that you may not need at the current level you're at. And then if you are looking to get started in nonprofits, Missouri SourceLink, again, really great resource, but they also have a how to start a nonprofit in the state of Missouri whole section that kind of walks you through step by step. This is what you need to do. This is where you need to go for tax exemption. This is where you need to file and how you need to file. This is information about how to put a board together. Get your EIN, open a bank account. It's really, really well thought out and really well written on all the different steps that you need to do. So, great resource. Another resource that we have at the library that is available, again, anywhere. So as long as you have a library card with us, you can actually log in and use it. And actually, technically, I don't even think you have to have a library card with us. I don't think it really works that way for this particular resource. So if you go to our website and you click on Legal GPS, it'll just automatically legal, and we go to Legal GPS. If you don't have a password saver, oh no. Wonder what happened there. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I was gonna show this to you, but I don't know why my login's not working. It's been my login. Interesting. But basically what legal GPS is it will walk you through some of the legal questions you may have when starting a nonprofit, and things to look out for. And it's actually a pretty good exercise, even if you already have a nonprofit, to just kind of make sure that you're doing everything that you need to be doing. It was started by a lawyer here in St. Louis who worked at a co-working space, and people kept swinging by his office and being like, hey, I just have one quick question for you. Let me just ask one quick question. And he was like, man, what if I had a place where people could go and get some of these really basic legal questions without having to ask a lawyer? And that's what this is. So when you're starting up and thinking about hiring people, or what are the things that your nonprofit needs, it walks you through those resources, and then also kind of gives you some templates too along the way as you go. And there's also the Missouri Extension has information about creating a nonprofit in Missouri. So really great resources out there for creating your nonprofits. Okay, so what about this thing I've heard about fiscal sponsorships? So sometimes people ask me about this, and I don't know a ton about fiscal sponsorships, but I did pull this, I put this slide on here, so that if you are interested in that. So sometimes instead of starting your own nonprofit, you can work with an existing 501c3. And you kind of get the benefits of having a 501c3 through them. I think a lot of the times when this happens, it's a lot of the times it's artists who maybe then are using that to be part of like a collective, and get that sponsorship for the nonprofit. In St. Louis, there is a group called Midwest Artist Project Services, and they do fiscal sponsorships. But sometimes you can find chambers who might do this too. But yeah, so it is an option if you don't have a 501c3 yet. So you can kind of look into who's doing fiscal sponsorships in your area. Okay, so if you need more help, if you want to come into the library and get some help doing your searches, that is my contact info, mel@kplmo.org. You can also feel free to email me. Maybe you can't come in for 2 weeks to the library and you're like, man, I just need to pull this one profile for this one nonprofit grant funder. Shoot me an email, we'll pull it for you and email it to you if you can't get into the library.
Standard hours that you are in the library?
So I'm here most days. I'm here 40 hours a week, so but the best way to kind of contact me is to just shoot me an email, and then we can work out a time for you all to come in. My phone number is there, but I'm not always at my desk because I do work the desk out here, and so it's hard to kind of catch me at that phone. So email is the best place, because even when I'm working the desk, I have my email up so I can respond. And then these are a couple of our small business and nonprofit programs that we have coming up. St. Louis Public Library is doing a Young Entrepreneurs program on April 1st. So if any of you have any budding young entrepreneurs, you can send them that way. And then we have a couple of small business programs here as well. I'm going to do Market Your Business Like an Ad Agency at the end of the month. So even if you're a nonprofit, there's going to be some really good tips in there as well. Any questions?